but there's something I asked Mallory before we came on here. I said, Mallory, what are you burning on? What are you burning on?
And then I looked at you and I was like, what? What is that burning on?
I said, dear Rome. There is something that you and I should probably just bring to air that we have discussed a lot internally between you and I.
Uh-huh.
We have had a lot of long, lengthy, hilarious discussions about this because I think that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is our shared favorite college football team of all time.
Yes. And this started about a year ago.
Yeah. Right at about a year, maybe like 11 months ago.
Yeah, because that's when everybody kind of started to realize, like,
well,
this...
you got a little famous off of this a little bit too.
I did. Yes.
We are talking about the 2023 Iowa Hawkeyes. Okay? I want to talk about Iowa. Okay? Now, I recognize it's Texas football today, as the Panini says. But for now, we're just going to do, for a moment, it's Friday. It's Friday in the offseason. Let's cover up the Texas part. Let's talk a little football today. Okay? Because I want to talk about the 2023 Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, you went viral last year.
I did.
Yes. You got picked up, and you did some numbies.
I did.
On the Bird app.
I did.
What was your tweet?
It was
during March Madness?
It was during March Madness. We were watching the Iowa Hawkeyes play women's basketball. I don't remember if it was Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight or something like that. And
the big game.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark went off.
Unbelievable.
40 points
She's
or something like that.
unbelievable.
Yeah. And so I started thinking, I was sitting there and I was like, 40 points. And they had said some stat like this is her like X amount of games scoring 40 plus points.
Yeah.
An insane stat. And I started thinking, I was like, I wonder how many points she has versus the Iowa football team, right? So I went back and I calculated. I didn't calculate much. I just went up and added how many points Iowa scored. Now, this is just overall. Now, this is not, I didn't break it up into offensive, points, defensive points, special teams points. And I came to the conclusion that the Iowa football team scored 230 points.
Correct.
In the 2022 season. Caitlin Clark, again, this was, I think, Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8. From that time to the start of March, Big Ten postseason play, Big Ten tournament play, from that start, she had scored 235 points. So at that point in time, she had scored more points than the Iowa football team scored that entire 2022 season.
In the postseason. So, here's the tweet from March 31st, 2023. Caitlin Clark has scored more points in postseason play, 235, than Iowa football scored all season, 230. That is insane. Now, you fired this bad boy off at 10:48 p.m.
I did.
Which means there's no chance you're sober. And
that's incorrect. I was very sober because I was pumped about this tweet.
So when you fired off this tweet, did you think it was going to do numbies?
No, I just thought it was going to be and that's the funny thing.
You thought I'd retweet and be like, "Great tweet, Mallory."
Right, exactly. So I was already dogging on Iowa football that entire because their first game of this season they played some FCS team and the final score was like, I don't know if you remember this, but it was 7-3. Not a single offensive touchdown. It was 2 field goals and
in 2022.
And I don't remember who it was. What was their first game of the season?
Oh, I gotta find this.
Because it was not. They didn't score a single touchdown in that game.
I believe you're referring to when they played Utah State in the opener, and they won 24-14 at home.
I think there was another
that's 23.
game.
I'm sorry, that's 23. Let me go to 22. Their season opener. Oh, that's right. South Dakota State.
Yes.
Who ended up being very good.
Yes, correct. But this is an FCS team.
They won 7-3.
7-3, and that was 2 field goals or a field goal and 2 safeties or something because that adds up to 7.
Yeah.
It was a field goal and 2 safeties, and I was like, okay, this team's gonna be on my radar for the rest of the season. And then that's why I was like, okay, now that's just.
So you fired off this heater of a tweet, and it's now sitting at 4.7 million views.
Yeah.
Because we're doing numbies over here. Okay.
Correct.
So. You fabulous tweet.
Thank you.
But it got us that was the first time that Iowa football really kind of came onto our radar.
Yeah.
And then you are a Big Ten fan.
Correct.
You're a Michigan State fan.
Yes.
By birth, right?
Yeah.
Your dad went to Michigan State?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
And so you're our resident Big Ten expert. Mm-hmm. And so you keep us apprised of all the doings in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Including the saga of Brian Ferentz.
Now,
so this is true. The longest tenured college football coach right now is Kirk Ferentz. He's the head coach at Iowa.
Whoa, they have the same last name? Crazy.
His offensive coordinator for the past couple of years,
correct,
has been Brian Ferentz. Brian Ferentz is the son of Kirk Ferentz.
Correct.
Okay?
Yep.
Now, you saw the tweet. Their offense in 2022 was dog doo-doo. It was bad.
Yes. Yes.
Okay?
And I really want to go back to that tweet and I guess the numbers and really like dive in and see how many of those points were actually scored by the offense.
You can So as a result, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you have to fire." Now Kirk Ferentz is in this very odd situation where he should probably fire his son.
Yeah, right.
They don't fire him. In the offseason, because Kirk Ferentz wields a lot of power up there.
Yeah.
At Iowa. Instead, they say, "All right, you're going to take a $50,000 pay cut, dropping your salary to only $850,000. And listen to me. Next year, if you do not average 25 points per game, then we're not going to renew your contract."
Nope.
Okay? So essentially they put him in timeout. Is what they did.
Yes.
They put the kid in timeout.
Yeah.
Now 25 points a game is not a lot of points.
No.
Okay? And by the way, defensive and special team scores count as well. So
yes.
Field goals or safeties or pick sixes or punt return touchdowns.
Which, to me, is cheating.
Absolutely cheating.
Obviously, the defense is top 5 in the nation. I'd say top 3 in the nation. Special teams, they've got a great punter. That's cheating.
They have, in my opinion, the best punter in America.
Oh, correct. Well, do you want to? Okay, real quick on the punting note. I read you this tweet. It was during the Cheez-It Bowl, which shout out Cheez-It Bowl.
Shout out Cheez-It Bowl.
They played. What a fantastic year.
We love it.
There was a tweet that said Iowa has 1,212 more yards punting than gained on offense this season, with 1/2 to go in a bowl game where they were getting shut out by Tennessee.
Who's not a great defense, by the way.
No other FBS team has more punt yards than yards on offense.
Got some notes here on the Iowa offense because here's the bottom line of it. Iowa's defense. This is a 10-win team. This team won their division. They played in the Big Ten championship game.
They won 10 games
because their defense is electrifying.
Yes.
Their defense is unbelievable.
Yes.
Defense and special teams fantastic. We mentioned that Brian Ferentz can only keep his job if they score 25 points a game. Let's go to the numbers. They averaged 15.4 points per game. They were 132nd in the FBS in scoring offense. Some of the numbers here are shocking, okay? So we mentioned that they need to score 25 points per game. 25 points per game. You might say, well, that's a heavy lift. Do you know who averaged 24.9 points per game? Northern Illinois, who went 7-6 in the MAC.
Wow.
They averaged 24.9 points per game. I'll go on this, okay? This is a team obviously last in the nation in total offense. Obviously not last in the nation. If you sort it by only Power 5 opponents, right? They had 217 yards per game against Power 5 opponents.
Oh my God.
That is by far the worst among Power 5 teams.
Awful.
Do you know who the second worst was? Michigan State.
No way. Are you kidding?
Averaged, Mallory, 260. Okay?
That's a huge jump.
A huge gap.
Oh my God.
A massive gap. It is shocking.
Insane.
I'll finish with this before we get to your question for help. We'll get to a break and then we'll get to help on a Mailbag Friday. I'll finish with this. So, I like to pay attention to what Vegas has going. Right?
Of course.
Vegas, of course, for every game, they will set a total, and you can bet on the over-under on the total.
Oh, yes.
Will there be more points scored than this? There were some games this year, including they had 2 games, both in November, against Nebraska and against Rutgers. The over and under on those, one of them was 27.5. One of them's 26. That's not points scored by Iowa. That's total points scored in the game. They had, of their games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Half of them, they played 14 games. Half of them had an over-under of 35 or below, which is like below the surface of the earth.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Mallory, and I want you to remember what Vegas's point is. The idea is not that they're predicting. They're trying to get equal money on either side, okay? That's what they're saying. Mallory, the under hit on 12 of their 14 games.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
The over hit
love
twice.
that.
Once against Western Michigan, which you remember when they scored late to kind of run up the score.
Yes.
And the other was when they played Michigan State.
Yeah.
The over-under was 36.5, and they won 26-16.
Let's go. That's amazing. Oh, my God.
There will never be another team like the 2023 Iowa Hawkeyes.
There won't.
We need to, I want a 30 for 30 on them, on the 2023 Iowa Hawkeyes. They're the most fascinating, amazing college football team I've ever seen. They're remarkable. They're incredible.
And
they're beyond belief.
How many shutouts?
Let's see. They were how many times were they shut out?
Yes.
They were shut out by Penn State. They were
Right.
shut out by Tennessee. They were shut out by Michigan. So that would be 3. They were shut out 3 times.
And they were bad shutouts.
They beat Wisconsin 15-6. They beat Northwestern 10-7. They lost to Minnesota 12-10. They beat Nebraska 13-10. I mean, it's an astonishing offense.
Man.
Shout out nepotism.
Shout out.
Shout out nepotism.
Yeah.
That rocks. I love the idea of just hiring your son and
I do too.
not being able to fire him. It just rules. By the way, Brian Ferentz will not return next year. He resigned. He announced this would be his last year midseason when it became very apparent that they were not going to make the 25 point per game. He was like, I'm going to take the decision out of my dad's hand. I'm just going to step down.
My favorite thing was
I'm sorry.
Sicko.
Step down, but he did coach the rest of the year.
Correct.
That's really important for the story.
Correct. My favorite thing is that Sicko's committee was keeping up with it.
The drive to 325.
Every single game after they would lose or whatever, the
spectacular.
little Brian Ferentz head would climb up the mountain. Oh my God. I'm gonna miss that so much.
I'm gonna miss the 2020. I mean this
am
sincerely.
too. I am too.
I am amazed and awestruck by the 2023 Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah. That's a team like any other. We're probably never gonna see something like that.
We never will. It's sad.
It is really sad.
End of an era. Shout out to you, 2023 Iowa Hawkeyes, our favorite college football team.